Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kat and this is Catadactyl. So, I have been mentioning it in a few videos now. We are anticipating moving to Australia hopefully soon. We applied like almost a year ago for me to get a spousal visa for Australia. My husband is Australian. So we are anticipating moving in the next few months. Hopefully that means that all of the books that I have to either donate like to a thrift store or to a library or ship them to Australia. So that means that the ones that I really love will be coming with me. I obviously would not leave my favorites. However, the ones that are not coming with me are on a separate shelf that's not even in this photo. It's like over there. So I figured I should get on the unhaul train because I have a lot to unhaul. So today I'm going to start with the books that I had the highest hopes for and they just let me down so much. So these are books that I didn't necessarily think they were like terrible. Perhaps. Some of them were terrible, but some of them are just, I was so hyped and I was like, yes, this is gonna be my favorite book of all time. And then it was like, no, it's not going to be because problems. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it because I have quite a few to talk about. So the first one up on the list is The Power by Naomi Alderman. And this one I was so intrigued by. A dystopian futuristic society where suddenly the power dynamics between men and women are switched on its head and women get the power of electricity to shock. And I thought it was going to be amazing. I thought it was going to be my new best friend and that it was going to be like a super high dystopian on my list of best dystopians of all time. It was not. I found the writing to be very messy and disjointed, and I didn't like the way that it ended, like the last third of it. I was like, what are we doing? I don't know. So I know that a lot of people tend to love it or hate it, and I was one of the ones that was like, it's not for me. So I could see people really getting on with it. The writing style, I think, and the different characters, the way that they were written, just wasn't my cup of dystopian tea. So next up is a book that a lot of people know. It's The Upside of Unrequited by Becky Albertalli. So Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda was one of my favorite books of last year. I found it so sweet and so adorable that immediately I went and got this one when it came out. So in this one we follow Molly, whose sister just got a girlfriend and she's looking for love herself, but like she's awkward and she doesn't know how to go about it. And I found this story, while the sexual representation was excellent, I found the actual main character in the story to be really weak. Like, I didn't find it enjoyable or rememberable at all. In fact, I struggled to remember even what happened. I know that there was like a scene at a gazebo and that's about it. Like, I don't remember. So for Becky Albertalli, who is such a strong writer, to write such an unrememberable story, I was just really let down. And I know that a lot of people do really like it. I just wasn't one of them. I found it to be really lukewarm. And I think because I read Simon earlier, I was like, yes, this is gonna be amazing. And then I was like, oh, it's actually so much less amazing than I thought. So yeah. Hey. And another author that I was like, yes, and then I was like, no. So this is The Heart Goes Last by Margaret Atwood. Margaret Atwood is one of my favorite authors of all time. I just love her writing. I love the way that she turns a lot of societal roles and hierarchies on their head. And in this one, you're following a system where overpopulation and resource management is a huge problem in the world. So they decide to turn prisons into a way to fix that problem. So out in the real world, people live in a house for a month, and then when their time is up, they change and they become an inmate in the prison. And they live half of their life going back and forth between a house in the real world and being an inmate in the prison. It's a fantastic idea. A lot of the elements in it were very weird, such as a person who has fallen in sexual love with a blue teddy bear, which is then why obviously the inside cover has blue teddy bears. So a lot of the elements that you would think are kind of hallmarks of Atwood's writing style are there, but I just found like the story kind of was, you know, like when stories, you trust them to take you somewhere, you're like, I don't know where we're going, it's weird, and I don't know if this is gonna be a thing, and then you have to wait and see if where they take you in the end is worth that like weird ass train ride you took to get there. And this was one where like the train ride never arrived at anywhere awesome. It just kind of like petered off, and I don't know, wasn't that impressed. So yeah, if you're gonna read Atwood, like read any of her other novels. And next up is a book that I probably should have known better. It's Jane Eyre Laid Bare by Eve Sinclair. This is a retelling of obviously Jane Eyre, but actually what it should be called is a complete copy of Jane Eyre, only Mr. Rochester is a kinky man and Jane Eyre doesn't know if she wants to play with him or not. But written in like a not good way. If that makes any sense at all. I feel like that perfectly summed up this book. So I really wasn't impressed. I should have known better, like I just should have known better. Shame on me. And next up is going to be a controversial one, and it is Sing Unburied Sing by Jesmyn Ward. First off, I do love the cover, like I'm in lust with this cover, but it will not be going with me to Australia because I had lukewarm feelings about this book, and I think maybe I would have felt better about this book if I hadn't have read Ruby by Cynthia Bond and The Color Purple by Alice Walker recently, which those two are along this kind of same veins as this, with dealing with the same topics, but I just loved that writing style and the story better. In this one we're following basically two main characters. So there's Jojo, who's a young boy in a dysfunctional family, and we're also following his mother. And they decide to go on a road trip to pick up the father who's getting out of prison. I think one of the things that really made me not get on well with this book was the way in which the mother interacts with her family. So she doesn't really care for Jojo, and she's a horrible mother. And I know a lot of people are like, you're supposed to empathize with her because you can see from her perspective how she got that way, but I can't. Like, maybe it's a reading flaw, but I just really don't like when parents neglect their children. No. I don't feel any sympathy for them. So if I'm going to read a book like that and that character is going to be the villain, I can understand and root against them. But when I'm supposed to feel for them, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And I know that's like a reading flaw of mine, but yeah, I wasn't so in love with it. I thought I was gonna love it. And I do understand why people do love it. So definitely, if you're intrigued by this novel, definitely check it out. It may be up your alley, and you may not have the hang-ups that I had. So another one is Beasts Made of Night by Tochi Onyebuchi. I was so ready for this book. I bought it and I was so ready. So in this world, sins manifest as marks or tattoos upon a person's skin, and there are mages that combat the monsters and basically eat them or destroy them, but then that animal, that sin, is marked upon their own skin. And I was just like, that sounds awesome, sign me up, take all of my money. Yes, I don't care it's a hardback and I'm trash and I usually just buy softback, like, yeah, just give it to me. I just really need it in my life. This story though, the plot was everywhere. Sometimes the plot was like going so fast, and then other times it was like flatlined. Sometimes like the character motivations were not there, and I didn't understand why certain characters were acting the way they were, or they broke character and acted in a completely different way. I haven't heard this talked about on BookTube, but I was so ready for this, and I really wanted to love it. But this was not that lovable, and I will not be reading the next one. So yeah, I'm really let down. But this will actually probably make a great library book when I donate it to my husband's school. So at least that's like a little silver. Okay, and another one I'm going to unhaul is The Marsh King's Daughter by Karen Dion. I have talked about this a bunch because I was so ready for this. It sounded like vibes of My Absolute Darling, but it did not deliver. So in this one we follow a woman whose father has recently got out of prison, and that's a huge problem because in her childhood he kidnapped and raped her mother, begot her, and she was actually the reason her father was actually caught and sent to prison in the first place, where he has just escaped. So I thought it was going to be some great like daughter getting revenge on her father, catching him, bringing him back to prison, also like a woman in the wilderness and very survivalist and great with a gun. Just generally elements that I'm like, fuck yeah, strong woman, like yeah, you do it. But actually this was largely told in massive flashbacks, and I found that there was almost no tension for me, and the high tension like current events went so slowly, it was like glacial. So I actually buddy read this, and I was really upset that I buddy read it because I wanted to love it, because the person I read it with also loved it. And that's always something like when we come, she's like, what did you think? I was like, I hated it. And she's like, oh my god, but I loved it. And I was like, damn it. And the last book that I'm going to talk about today is The Growing Season by Helen Sedgwick. Anything that has to do with a dystopian world, that has to do with women's rights and fertility rights, like, I am fucking there. So in this world, a technology has been developed called the pouch, which allows you to have a baby outside of your body. So the babies made outside of the body are perfectly healthy and everything's great, and it also prevents complications with the women, and also men can have a part in carrying a baby. I really wanted to love this, like futuristic tech and a dystopian world, fertility, feminism, all that good stuff. I just struggled. This whole book was a struggle. I wasn't so keen on the way that the characters were written, the way in which we were told information. I didn't gel with the writing style. I didn't think that the world or the tech was adequately explained, and for the large majority of the novel, almost nothing happened. So I feel like you could have read the first chapter and the last chapter and been like, good. So like this could have been like a short story, perhaps, but yeah, it was a huge letdown for me, and I was so bummed about it because I just really, really wanted to love it. That's the case with all of these books. I really wanted to love them. So it's not that they're necessarily super bad, it's just that my expectations were like so high, and then when I actually read them, I was like, going on down, like all the way down. So yeah, that finishes up my unhaul. If you guys want to see more unhauls, please hit the like button or subscribe. That would be awesome. Also, if you also did not gel well with these, or you did, let me know in the comments. And I hope you guys are having a lovely day. I also hope that we hear back from the Australian visa office. So, on a guy. But yeah, without further ado, I'm just gonna say toodles for now. So yeah, toodles. Bye!